You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
There we go. Welcome back to the show, and the final score was Hearts 2, Aberdeen 1, and Hearts are top of the league. I bet you most Hearts fans think what would be wanting for me to say that at the end of the season, but there you go. Another 35 games to go. Surely Hearts can win the league now. Um, um, joined tonight, as always, by Ethan, and get your comments coming in. We'll be on until 11 o'clock talking about the game tonight. Ethan, we built up to be a good game. It was like, I think the best way to describe it was the first maybe 10, 15 minutes. It was a basketball game end to end. But when Hearts scored that first goal, own goal by Shinnie, Aberdeen fell to pieces, you would say.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I would completely agree with what you said. In the opening sort of quarter of the game, you could say it was so frantic. The ball was turning over so often. There was so many sliding challenges. It looked like we had a really good game in our hands. It kind of slowed down after that. Obviously, Hearts got the early goal. It's unfortunate from Shinnie. Just a terrible moment for him because he loses the ball in midfield to start it, and then Hearts have about 5 shots on goal before it eventually gets crossed by Harry Milne, and then I think Leighton Clarkson kind of looks like he's going to clear it. He slides to clear it right in front of him, and Shinnie's left helpless as it hits off him and past Dimitar Mitov. And yeah, Aberdeen never really recovered from that point. Harry Milne was at it again. He had a brilliant strike from the edge of the box that hit the bar. That would have been a great goal. And then Aberdeen did have one chance in the second half. It was kind of, in the first half, sorry, it was a bit of a weird chance that kind of Yengate kind of hit off him and hit the post. It nearly went in, but apart from that, it was all Hearts really. And then obviously you think they've doubled their lead before half time with the Shankland goal, which would have been goal of the week without a shadow of a doubt, and possibly goal of the month because it was a wonderful strike. And then obviously it gets ruled out, fair enough, offside. And then to be fair, the second half Aberdeen improved. I thought they were better. They were creating more chances. Yengi had a massive chance from the free kick. Clarkson put in a great ball, and all he had to do was pretty much direct it towards goal, and he puts it wide. And then Hearts come into the game a bit again, and they obviously get that second goal, which gives them a comfortable last 15 minutes or whatever it was. Stuart Finlay with a good header. Harry Milne involved again, and he really stepped up in the game. I think they got Partick Thistle, I think that was in January. So he's really stepped up, and is obviously someone that Derek McInnes has a lot of faith in.
Now, I know that Edinburgh Festivals just kind of started off in Edinburgh, but if you were looking at Aberdeen's defence for the first Hearts goal, that was a comedy of errors.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know even what Shinnie's trying to do with the ball in there. It was like he was playing in midfield, obviously playing at left back on the night. And then Canuster needs to cover for him. Canuster falls on his backside, try to deal with Braga, and then they have a shot from the edge of the box, I think, Hearts, and then it comes out to Milne and he crosses it, and there's all the Aberdeen bodies in there, but Shinnie can only put it into his own net, and it just kind of set the tone for the night. And Aberdeen, you'd have to say, were pretty disappointing. Hearts looked really good. They look like a team that's got their eyes set on third place. They look like a team that, I'm not going to say look like a team that's going to win the league, but they look really, really good. And yeah, they'll take confidence into the rest of the season, because it's all well and good beating, as we mentioned in the pre-show, beating Sunderland, a really strong Sunderland team in a testimonial friendly match, and winning in the Premier Sports Cup. But that's 6 games now, 1 goal conceded, and quite a lot scored. I think it would be 25 goals scored in 6 games. So that's a really good return. For Aberdeen, the fans must be worrying because it doesn't get any easier. Obviously, Celtic at home next Sunday. So they could very much be at the bottom of the table by the end of next week if they don't perform better than they did tonight.
I nearly got my wish as well. Even watching that game, Shankland, the captain, scored a brilliant goal and it ruled off for offside. But I mean, albeit it wasn't a goal, but I mean, it was some strike.
Yeah, it was. It was a wonderful goal, and it just kind of brought you back to. I mean, probably it was, although it won't stand, it reminds the Tynecastle that this is the Lawrence Shankland that scored ridiculous amounts of goals. I think they showed the stat as they were just showing the lineups, goals in the Premiership in the last 3 seasons. Lawrence Shankland firmly at the top of that table, and I think he'll be on for a really good season. I do think he'll be contending for that golden boot again, because Hearts are in a really good flow at the moment, and they look like they're going to be a difficult team to beat. And the striker options are really frightening. We spoke about Elton Kabangu on the pre-show, but he didn't even get on the pitch. So shows the options they have in attacking areas.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it was nice to see Tony Bloom enjoying the game when he was letting out a big yawn as well. I bet you the Sky director was about kind of, well, why did we cut him at that particular time?
Yeah, that was a funny one, because I think he spoke before the game as well. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll need to go and see what he was saying. Robbie said in the pre-show that he's interviewed the other day, speaking about winning the league in the next 10 years and whatever. And I think he said that there's no reason why they can't finish second this season. I mean, if they can put together a consistent, if they can put together an Aberdeen level sort of consistent start to last season across 38 games, then you never know. But yeah, I just don't think it is. I think it's too early to think about that. But Hearts should be aiming for third, realistically, and they've set down an early marker to get that. Obviously, playing against one of their, you would imagine, competitors for that place, and obviously their rival counterparts, you would say on paper, having an easier game away to Dundee, but they're the ones who are currently top.
Yeah, I was going to say that to you. I think it would be between Aberdeen and Hearts to get the first place, but you never know as well. But I mean, going back to Aberdeen, so disappointing, and we said in the show that they would be out for the game because they won the Scottish Cup against Celtic in May. But also, I mean, I don't know about you, Ethan, but I only wrote one shot down that they had in the whole entire game, and that was Teki Yenge in the second half.
Yeah, the one he put wide. There was another one that kind of hit off his leg in the first half that hit the post, but I don't think he could even claim he knew much about that. But yeah, they had, like, when the chances came for Aberdeen, they were good chances, but they just didn't really create enough or have enough pressure on Hearts. There was one point in the first half where Aberdeen just couldn't get out. Hearts were just pressing them in, just peppering shots at the goal. And obviously that's how the first goal comes, just sustained pressure on the Aberdeen goal, and it eventually leads to Shinnie putting it in. But yeah, Aberdeen, they looked pretty poor, and for the Aberdeen fans that have travelled through the storm up to Edinburgh, they'll be quite unhappy with that, because they just were second best, really, and there wasn't really. They had moments of quality. I think you can see with Adil Awaucic. I know he had his moments of he got in a wee scuffle with Cammy Devlin and got booked, but I think he showed his moments of quality and why he was tipped to be the next big thing when he was at Paris Saint-Germain. He obviously stayed on the full match as well, I think. So yeah, I don't know, but I just think Hearts look a lot stronger than Aberdeen, and if you didn't think that before that, which I didn't, I obviously predicted a draw in the pre-show, but yeah, you would have to say Hearts are quite far ahead of Aberdeen at the moment.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, and you beat me to that, and I thought what I was going to say was a bit unfair to kind of Aberdeen fans, albeit it's after the first game, but I thought there were miles behind Hearts in that kind of game. Yeah,
they were. Definitely. They just, I don't know, they just looked second best, and for a team that started last season so well, and obviously ended last season so well with the Scottish Cup win, and the signings they've made, they've strengthened their squad. They've not lost many players, but it's just really uninspiring. If I could sum it up in one word, where Hearts looked fresh, they looked like they're full with new ideas. All the old players that were already there look sort of driven to give their best under McInnes. They've obviously put the new signings in who added a lot. McEntee in midfield, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I'd never seen him play before, but he was a standout for Hearts. I thought Cammy Devlin had one of his better games, and you know what he's like. He's just a pest on the pitch. He's just one of those nasty players that you love to have in your team, but you hate to play against. But there was standout performers all across the pitch from Hearts, and just a really good way, and it'll really get their fans up for the season ahead.
I mean, just looking at the match statistics after the game, even late game Hearts, albeit they won 2-1, they had 3 shots on target to Aberdeen's 1, and like that's a very. I know fans don't pay attention to statistics and all that after the game, that all they depend on if we won the game or we got the point, but that's very disappointing for a team of Aberdeen standard to have 1 shot a goal.
Yeah, definitely, and they should have had more. They just looked a bit toothless in front of goal as well, and it's real concerning because I imagine for Aberdeen fans that probably watched a lot more Aberdeen games than I did last season. Some of the problems maybe reoccurring that were during that terrible run where they obviously went, I think it was 13 or 14 games without a win, following their magnificent unbeaten run. So yeah, it would worry you, because that's your sort of competition, that's your benchmark. That and we know we mentioned that none of these teams have won at the other team's ground, got an away win in nearly 8 years, or over 8 years actually. So it's not an easy thing to do, but just the manner of Hearts, just from when they got that first goal, they just never looked like Aberdeen were really going to cause them that many problems. And I know they had a decent spell to start the second half, but it just didn't last long enough. And yeah, you'd be slightly worried as an Aberdeen fan, because it doesn't get any easier from here on out. And you've obviously got big European matches coming up.
And you kind of alluded it to that, even that it's quite hard to believe that Aberdeen went on a 13 game run last season, and all the fans were saying we're going to win the league, and suddenly they came to Hampden and Celtic won, what was it, 6-0, 6-1 in the League Cup semi-final, and then it was like downhill from there.
Yeah, and yeah, it has been downhill since that point. They had periods last season in the league where they strung a few decent results together. They weren't too bad in the split. Obviously, they had that really disappointing result at home to Celtic, but then they win the Scottish Cup, and I don't want to say it kind of papers over the cracks of the league form to end the season, but it maybe does in a sense, because here we are, they've started the league season again, and it's a really poor start against a team they were were quite far ahead of last season at points, and really far ahead of. I mean, there would have been points last season probably where Aberdeen were top of the league and Hearts were bottom, and we're not talking one game in. We're talking 5, 6, 7 games in that Aberdeen were right up the top with Celtic and Hearts were right down the bottom with Hibs, and it's all flipped on its head. Obviously, Tony Bloom's gave that £10 million investment that we keep talking about, but yeah, Aberdeen will be worried because I said it's not going to the first games aren't going to dictate where teams land in the season, but it does a lot to your mental. If you go on to one of your third place rivals, say, and lose like Aberdeen did today, and Hearts will take massive confidence going into the upcoming games, and they've got no European football to worry about, so they're just relaxing, just playing their weekend games for most of the season, which will give them a big advantage, I think.
No, I'm not a big one on Ethan, as I said, looking at the stats after the game, and or the football fans are getting Kleski as if we won the game, but get this one, this stat caught my eye, Ethan, right? 19 fouls, Hearts to Aberdeen's 18, so it was quite a kind of like dirty game, and when you see it like that, it's like, why wasn't there a red card in the game?
Yeah, I know that's what I thought, especially in the first half or really early in the game. It looked like, I don't know if it must be something that Derek McInnes is told his players to do, really. Don't let Aberdeen have any time on the ball. If you see them with the ball at their feet, just jump in. And yeah, I'm sure that wasn't his words, because obviously that's quite reckless, but I'm sure you get the point. Put a lot of pressure on them, don't sit off them. And you could see that there was 2 and 3 Hearts players tracking down Aberdeen players all the time, and they were making it really difficult for Aberdeen to even get the ball out of their half. And yeah, there was just so many challenges flying in. So I don't know how there wasn't more yellow cards and maybe even reds, as you said. I don't know if there was any really red card-worthy challenges, but yeah, it was a really interesting approach. And obviously last season, Kilmarnock had that strange run to start the season of getting a stupid amount of red cards under Derek McInnes. So you wonder maybe if Hearts might do the same to start this campaign if they keep flying about like they were tonight.
Do you think as well Derek McInnes had his side up for the game, not because it was the first home game of the season in front of TV cameras, but it was against one of his former teams, Aberdeen?
Yeah, he would have loved tonight to get that one over them, because although he had a really successful time at Aberdeen, I imagine as a player and a manager, it's really good to get one over your old employer. He obviously got that to an even greater degree last season when Kilmarnock beat Aberdeen 4-0, I think it was, at Rugby Park. And that was when Aberdeen were in a really bad spot. But yeah, it's a massive statement from him. And I think it's a massive statement of intent from the club. Obviously, we've heard a lot about Tony Bloom saying this, saying that. But if they keep turning in performances like this against Aberdeen, Hibs, Rangers, Celtic, then they'll give those teams a really difficult challenge, and you never know where they'll land. But I mean, I still think that the third is a realistic and where they should be aiming for. But you shouldn't put a limit on ambition. So we'll see where Hearts are in a few years if they keep on an upwards trajectory.
And I noticed, I don't know, but you noticed, Ethan, but when I noticed the game, they usually chant the new manager's name, but they bypassed Derek McInnes and went to Tony Bloom full on.
Yeah, he obviously must be a massive fan favourite there with the money he's put into the club, and he'll be looking for a return on that. He'll be looking to profit off that money, and because although he obviously has a passion in football, that's why he's invested in so many football clubs. He's a businessman at the end of the day, and he'll want the players that have got such good analytics that have led to Hearts signing them. He'll want to make a profit on those players, and I think the Hearts squad's in a really good place. You've seen it tonight. The quality they're bringing off the bench, the competition for places, the real kind of idea. You can clearly see what Derek McInnes is set up to try and do, the 5-3-2, and then the subs he brought on, it kind of went, I didn't really understand the subs completely from McInnes, because he kind of brought Alan Forrest on, who's a winger for a right wing back, but I suppose a winger can play at wing back, and yeah.
You gave me to Paul Donaldson is watching the show on YouTube. He says, awful from Aberdeen tonight. Absolutely shambles in our defence for both of Hearts' goals and the disallowed Shanking goal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's just really poor. The second goal especially, I think the first head, it's a bit fortunate because the two central defenders, Craig Halkett and Canuster, go up for it and they kind of head it off each other and it falls for Finlay. But surely this should be someone, Martin Stewart Finlay. He's going to be one of the biggest threats from set pieces, and that's exactly what he was. He was brave and nipped in front of Dino Tarmitov to ensure the win for Hearts.
I was saying earlier on about you forget Aberdeen went on that 13-1 in Sclake, and obviously when they met Celtic in the semi-final, Celtic beat them, and ever since that game Aberdeen went down. But it's weird how football works sometimes, because Paul Donaldson comes back in and says that he's really worried about Aberdeen's season. I know, okay, it's the first game of the season, 35 games to go, and maybe more if you get into the later cup rounds, Scottish Cup, League Cup, and also European football as well. And I know the league is your bread and butter, but you want to make a bit of a dent in European football. But there you go, Paul Donaldson's an Aberdeen fan, and he says, I'm really worried about Aberdeen's season.
Yeah, and I think that's what I would pick up as an Aberdeen fan. You would have to strive and have to imagine that Aberdeen would want to come into this season with a stronger squad than what they started last with, and you would imagine that, because at any football club you're trying to progress season on season, that doesn't always happen. That's why football is football. But Aberdeen look on the face of it like they've strengthened. They've got more players in. They haven't lost any sort of key names. I know they obviously lost Gay. Well, I say they haven't lost any key names. They lost Gay, obviously. Pape Gay, who started last season really well, but obviously suffered that injury. And then as well, they've not got Kevin Nisbet back from that loan that he was on for last season. He was obviously a big player, and I think he got voted Players' Player of the Season as well. So that's a big void that's been left. They've got Cassini Yengi in to fill that, and I was one that I thought that was a good signing. But if you were going strictly off tonight's performance, you would have to say he's not filled the fans with much confidence, and there's not really many other options up there, unless I'm forgetting anybody. But they brought young 17-year-old Fletcher Boyd on for him, and it's nice to see a young Scottish player getting the opportunity. But if that's your options, then yeah, you would be worried.
Yeah, basically Paul Donaldson's making the point that Jimmy Chaptolin will have to buy himself some time and good win for the fans as well. And I think that you were making the point, Ethan, about football fans aren't stupid, right? They pay their money week in, week out, and albeit it was a brilliant win for Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup final, but that's last season. This is this season now, and okay, we might be unfair to Aberdeen because it's only game one in the Premiership, but if they perform like that, and say the next 5 games or something,
Yeah, football it's became for managers. It's there's no safe job, there's no safe appointment for clubs. And Jimmy Tillene on top of the world in May when he obviously lifted the Scottish Cup, and his brilliant tactics, you have to say, outdone a Celtic team which obviously didn't perform at their best on the day, but you need a bit of luck in these games, and it was a brilliant performance from Aberdeen on the day. But yeah, the time will run out quick for the Aberdeen fans, and if performances stay like this, then yeah, he'll not have a lot of time left because they've obviously backed him. They've got a good squad there. They expect to be competing for and then around third place, and they're not. Well, off that evidence, you would have to say they're not close to that at the minute. And obviously, it's a tough game next. He needs to really watch what he does against Celtic because if it's an ugly scoreline, I don't think it will be. Celtic aren't in their best flow at the moment, so it's probably one of the better times to play against them. But yeah, Aberdeen are taking no confidence into that game, and they'll need to get at least a competitive result against Celtic to look on the positive side of it.
Robbie coming in and says that he only saw the first half. Hearts look good. I have seen a lot of criticism of Teki Yengi on social media. Did you have a poor game? And we spoke about him early on, Ethan, and you know, as you said, well, yeah, you mentioned the chance they had, but I mean, it was a brilliant chance they had in the second half with kind of like the header, and that was it.
Yeah, it was a sitter in the second half. There was one where you just got to score. You can't miss that. As any professional football player, never mind a striker, and you see he lashes out at the goalpost, he kicks the goalpost in frustration because he knows it's a massive chance at 1-0 down. If he scores that, Aberdeen get their tails up at one each, and you never know what happens. But yeah, he's got to take that, and you'd have to be worried with Aberdeen's striker options because, as I said, young Boyd came on. They brought Esther Sockler on later, but yeah, I think it would be a clear message to the board that they need a new striker if that's their options based on tonight.
And Paul Donaldson coming back in as well, basically, because what we were saying about Teki Yandi, that every time he was passed the ball to Yandi, he just stood and watched and wait for it to come to his feet, and allowed the fingers to get the ball in front of him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just don't think he had his best game at all, and there's still plenty of time for him to turn it around at Aberdeen. But yeah, a worrying debut for Cassini Yengi, and it's one you want to forget pretty quickly. And you wonder whether he'll be the starting striker next week. Sorry, because there isn't really much else that Jimmy Tillene can do there, but you just wonder how he's going to line up the team when it went so wrong for them. And I think Robbie mentioned about Graham Shinnie having a poor game as well, and I think he probably did, but I think most of the Aberdeen players did. Obviously, Paul was saying that Cassini Yengi is Teddy Yengi's brother. Yeah, Teddy Yengi, obviously Livingston. I just think Shinnie was at fault for that first goal, and not just because he scored the own goal. He obviously gives it away in midfield and ends out of position. But yeah, I think that would be two areas that I'd look at if I was Jimmy Tillene before the transfer window shuts, left back and striker, because they're two areas that wouldn't fill me with too much confidence.
Don't worry, Hearts fans, we haven't forgotten about Hearts as well. And I suppose all the, I wouldn't say criticism coming from us, or maybe from Paul Donaldson, because he sees Aberdeen every week. But you've got to say Hearts done a very professional job tonight and won the game.
Yeah, exactly. And the cries will start. The Will Hearts split the Old Firm, Celtic Rangers. The same sort of questions that we're going about after a few games last season when Aberdeen obviously started so well. I think Hearts have just got to stay consistent, not focus on anyone but themselves. And if they do that, then you never know what they can achieve this season. If it's based off that first performance, then you would have to be saying at least third. But we haven't seen them line up against Hibs yet, and based off how the teams have started the season, that looks like it'd be a real classic. Knowing that now that I've said that, it's probably going to finish nothing each, and there'll be no goals throughout the 4 games they play this season. But yeah.
Yeah, and Robbie makes a point there about Shankland, and I did say at the top of the show, and I said in the show before the game as well. It's amazing how him moving clubs has basically died down, and obviously it wasn't the same Shankland last season, and people was jumping on the bandwagon about, oh well, he's not on Crestgig because he's going to Rangers, and I'm sure he was tipped to go to Spain at one point as well. But like you know, the kind of pressure the kind of pressure's off, and he scored a brilliant goal. It was because it was ruled out for offside.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that even excluding that Lawrence Shankland goal, Hearts didn't. It wasn't as if everything was going through Lawrence Shankland, or even everything going through Claudio Braga, and that was the problems of the past when they had those seasons where they came third place. Yeah, possibly. I'll just finish my point and then I'll touch on Paul's point. I think what was I saying? Oh yeah, Shankland. They didn't. Not everything went through them, or went through Lawrence Shankland, and that was the problem in the past. That's why when Lawrence Shankland's form fell off a cliff last season, they just didn't have the answers. Although they've got other players chipping in with goals and assists. And I know one of them was an own goal, but Harry Milne was brilliant. Nearly scored one of the goals of the season's goal of the season, as Robbie said. Brilliant strike that hit off the bar. And just to Paul's point, yeah, I think you could definitely make the point that Hibs are still favourite for third over Hearts, and that'd be fair enough. But I just think Hearts were really good tonight, and I mean it's only one game in we're talking about, but off what I've seen so far, I still favour Hearts to get third, and Hibs to get fourth, and Aberdeen to get fifth. But I mean, one of the teams could go on a ridiculous run like Aberdeen and Hibs did at points last season, so you never know what can happen.
And then Hearts scored the second goal in the second half. Stuart Finlay, it was another good goal.
Yeah, it was a great ball in from Harry Milne. Kind of lucky how it falls for Stuart Finlay, but he's alive to it, and I think that the commentators said he's brave to kind of jump in front of Mitov because Mitov's rushing towards him, and he just kind of headers it past him. And at that point in the game, it just kills any Aberdeen hope of getting anything from the game. And massive goal for Hearts to ensure that the 3 points and also the 2+ goal difference, so they go to the top of the league.
And I suppose that we always say that about a team as well, like Hearts tonight. It's all right them winning tonight, but they've got to go and build on that now. And as I said early on, that they've got a difficult game on Sunday against Dundee United.
Yeah, exactly. Dundee United will be off the back or in the amongst 2 really difficult ties against Rapid Vienna, where it's probably a step too far, I would say, for Dundee United. I hope not. I hope they can across the 2 legs give them a real run for the money and even maybe pull off one of the big upsets for the Scottish clubs in Europe. But that's one game that the Hearts can be really confident going into. Then we've got St Mirren in the Cup, which not be an easy game. Motherwell at home, not be an easy game. But I think we've said that there's no easy games in the Scottish Premiership this season, it's looking like. Although Hearts made tonight's game look easy, and that would give you a lot of confidence considering Aberdeen are one of the best teams in the league on paper.
Very well. Graham wants the league to finish tonight.
Stop the count.
Yeah, Hearts won the league by 3 points, and a better goal difference. So there you go. I don't want to say wake up Graham, but good let him enjoy his moment. They don't get a lot of good moments in Pennycook. I think so that I'm on the kicking on Graham. Hearts look good tonight. Good display tonight. Can they build or can they mount a challenge and keep the momentum going? I think that's what we were saying early on, Robbie and Ethan. And I think you make the point as well that Robbie make the point that it's a long season and teams don't be very consistent. But I'll be interested to see how Hearts do, because I think on paper, and I know the game's not played on paper, but Hearts has got a good squad as well.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it's all about: consistency. And it's consistency and confidence, the two C's. If you've got both of them, then it's pretty difficult to see yourself losing. And if Hearts can build up a run, Dundee United going away there, there's no reason why they can't win that match. There's no reason why they can't go and beat St Mirren in the Cup or win at home to Motherwell, or even give Celtic or Rangers a game. And that's always the real acid test when it gets to these teams outside of Celtic and Rangers that are doing really well. How are they going to do in that game against Celtic and Rangers? Aberdeen obviously started really well at Celtic Park, getting that draw. And then obviously in the second game against, they obviously beat Rangers as well. And then they go up against Celtic and they just collapsed and their season just got derailed at that point after their trip to Hampden.
Glenn makes a point that he's basically saying that the first half, what Hearts were very good, real intention. Second half, we dropped off. But never really felt Aberdeen. But this is the point I want to get to, even because obviously that Derek McInnes is a decent manager, that he makes the subs at the right time. And Glenn was saying that fair play to McInnes making 4 subs and going 4-4-2.
Yeah, that was the one. That's why I said earlier I was a little bit confused with these substitutions, because I wasn't watching the game full on. So I was I seen the substitutes and I was like, well, he's like for like centre back for centre back, striker for striker, but these ones I'm not sure about. But Graham's obviously cleared it up there, and it does make a lot more sense now. And yeah, Derek McInnes sort of seen that it wasn't working. You could maybe say at the start of the second half, Aberdeen having more of the play, maybe not looking like scoring, but you would have to say they were on top. And then he changes it and they go and get that second goal and see out the game. And that's what Derek McInnes gets paid for. That's why he's the Hearts manager, and that's why Tony Bloom and the others at the Hearts hierarchy have a lot of belief in him, and he's the one to, I'd imagine, take them to the proposed Scottish Premiership champions run that he thinks might happen in the next 10 years.
One of the Glenn makes a point there about the subs coming on. One of the subs stood out for me, and I liked him when he was at Livingston as well. That the brother of James Forrest, Alan Forrest, came on and he done a ton tonight for Hearts.
Yeah, he's been a solid player for Hearts and signing from Livingston. I think he's split opinion between Hearts fans on whether he's someone that can be used or someone that should be moved on. But I think I heard a Hearts fan saying actually that that Derek McInnes tried to sign him at Kilmarnock when Alan Forrest was at Livingston. So kind of shows that Derek McInnes already kind of liked his profile as a player, so he's going to keep him about, and he's going to use him, and he did tonight. Obviously changed the system up, bringing him on, and it worked because Hearts seen out the game and obviously got another goal on top of that.
We'll come back to Paul's point because he says any thoughts on the European draw. Of course, the European draw was made, what was it, this afternoon, and we found out who the teams get in the next round. But let's just wrap up the game at Tynecastle tonight between Hearts and Aberdeen. Hearts winning by 2-1, and Graham thinks Hearts has won the league already. So, but, so good, just let them believe it. The Edinburgh Festival's in town. Anything happens at the moment, Ethan. But, yeah, I mean, it's important that Hearts won tonight, but it's also important to follow up and win on Sunday as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. The highs of tonight are taken away if you don't go and take 3 points, I would say, with the ambition that Hearts have and the expectation the fans will put on them. You know what football fans are like. You get one good result, you get so excited, you think you're on top of the world. And I'm sure there'll be Hearts fans out there thinking, you know what, we can have a go at Celtic and Rangers. We can battle with the big boys, and they have the right to do that. That's what we want. We want. I think it's absolutely brilliant if a team could sort of break the pattern of it just being Celtic and Rangers. And I know obviously they're the two biggest clubs in the country, and they have been since the existence of Scottish football pretty much. So it's a difficult one to break, but surely it's got to happen eventually, and maybe it'll be Hearts this season. We'll have to see.
There you go. Paul Donaldson basically comes in and says, I think Jimmy's probably needs to play with a back five away in Edinburgh and Glasgow and at home against the Old Firm.
Yeah, well, the back five is it's growing across Scottish football. You've obviously got Hibs play back five, Hearts play back five, St Mirren play back five. So it's a lot of teams in the top six. That's just teams in the top six that play the back five. I'm trying to think across the league. Dundee play back five. Who else plays back five? Livingston and Falkirk don't, I believe. Motherwell, they didn't play a back five against Rangers. Kilmarnock play back five. So almost half the league play the back five. So and teams have done very well against all teams in the league playing it. I remember Barry Ferguson deploying a five at the back for Rangers, and that worked out so well against Celtic and against Fenerbahce. So the back five is sometimes something that's frowned upon as a sitting in negative formation, but I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as you set up your players to have the best chance at winning. That's ultimately what matters.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the final comment from Paul Donaldson on Aberdeen, he says, we cannot and must not allow a repeat of tonight next time we play in Edinburgh. But I would go as far as to say any time that Aberdeen plays, and that would start on Sunday against Celtic.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's something that Aberdeen just need to put behind them now and look forward because the game's gone now, and it's another difficult test coming up.
There we go. So that was final score tonight. Hearts 2, Aberdeen 1. Hearts has won the league, by the way, because in case you're just tuning in. we're going back in time. It's actually May in the Scottish Cup final with next week, Celtic against Aberdeen. By the way, I'm kicking on. While I've got you here, Ethan, I know you were on last night talking about all the games. I'll just run through all the scores for you as well. Of course, you were at the Celtic game yesterday, so was I. Final score, the game of the weekend, you would have to say Kilmarnock 2, Livingston 2, Motherwell 1, Rangers 1, and the scores yesterday, Falkirk 2, Dundee United 2, Dundee 1, Hibs 2, and Celtic 1, St Mirren 0. First of all, I'll ask about the Celtic game because obviously you were there. What did you think of the game overall?
Yeah, I thought Celtic didn't play their best. They looked like a team that were settling into a new season. And unlike last season, where I think they started off under Brendan Rodgers in the best vein of form they've had under Brendan Rodgers in any of his stints, or any of his 2 stints at Celtic, any of his seasons. And I know it didn't translate in the end to a treble or whatever, but I think the way they started that season, and a lot of last season, they were just blowing by teams, especially at home. And I've said I think it'd be a real positive for the league if a lot of the games are a lot more tighter, and that's what St Mirren caused. And St Mirren, in all fairness, have caused Celtic some problems recently as well. The last 2 games, obviously the title day last season was 1 each, and James Forrest had to get that last kick of the ball equaliser, and then the game before that in Paisley, I think it was 4-2 to St Mirren, no 4-2 to Celtic, sorry. And St Mirren were really in that game as well, and I think they could have had a penalty at 3-2, if my memory serves me right. So yeah, it's looking like a really competitive league across the board this season, and I'm really looking forward to it because the first weeks produced some entertaining games, some less entertaining games, but competitive games, and that I think that's the best thing. You want a competitive league, and if teams are pushing Celtic and Rangers, then it'll only benefit the rest of the league.
I know when we do this show, Ethan, it's like when St Mirren and say the rights of Kilmarnock and all that goes to Ibrox and Parkhead and Parks as Reagan likes to remind me, 10 buses buying the ball. But I don't know about you, but it was a bit rough lesson yesterday that St Mirren didn't do that. They were coming to have a bit of a go and and make for a better game.
Yeah, I would agree. Stephen Robinson's teams are physical, they're big, they're hard to beat, they'll run, and they'll just make it difficult for you, and that's what they've done. It wasn't a low block behind the ball at all times. Of course, playing against a possession heavy team like Celtic, there's going to be times you're going to have to sit behind the ball and make it difficult. But I said this to Robbie yesterday. I think at the start of both halves, St Mirren tried to press Celtic, and obviously you're going to get more tired as the game goes on. It's not easy chasing a ball about for most of the game, so only naturally that they would fall back. And yeah, they defended well. They created chances, and another day maybe they take one of those chances or work one of the opportunities better, and maybe, dare I say, even nick at 3 points from Celtic Park.
Yeah, no. Okay, so Robbie doesn't like the word 10 men behind the ball as well. So I won't say that again. Talking about the rest of the games at the weekend, I know that you went over course in detail last night on the show, Robbie, but Ethan, but if we go back to Saturday night at Fir Park, Russell Martin's first game against Motherwell, and I don't think it went well. Let's just say it ended up not. It was a good week, meant to be a fantastic week, but I guess ended up a good week, and they come up and had a go as players after the game. I've listened to Martin O'Neill on a different radio station. How dare I? But I listened to him today. But when you listen to his comments, you kind of agree with him because he basically says that he shouldn't come out and basically slate his players after game one of the season. And obviously they've got a big game tomorrow night. But where do you stand on the whole debate?
I think Russell Martin, with what he said, he's running a fine line. Because if he's questioning the ego of those players already, then there's every chance that those players could go, well, I'm not. That's it. I'm not playing for this manager. He's not defending me to the media. He's selling us. He's putting us out to dry. Sorry, I should say. Then some of the players will sort of reject that, but some of them will the ones who I think the players he's talking about will know that he's talking about them, and I think it's really interesting because it can backfire against them, but it can also go for them. But I think Russell Martin will know he needs to take a look at himself as well, because I think I said this last night. The three competitive matches he's played in, obviously the first leg and second leg against Panathinaikos and the game at Fir Park on Saturday night, Rangers haven't been good enough over 90 minutes. The first half at Ibrox against Panathinaikos, they were poor, lucky to not be behind. The second half, obviously, they get that brilliant goal from Finlay Curtis, a wonderful strike and a wonderful moment for him. But it was only really when Panathinaikos went down to 10 men that they really took control of the game. And Panathinaikos are a good team, don't get me wrong. But then again, Athens, Rangers were poor. It wasn't as if they were just poor because they were playing against a good team. They were just poor. They were just doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Silly passes along from out the back, weren't pressing well. And again, they probably rode their luck a bit to get a draw there. A great scoreline across two legs to progress. But then again, Motherwell, I didn't get to see the match, so I'm going off highlights and what people said and statistics and stuff like that. But just like Motherwell were better at everything, really. And you can use the excuse, oh, well, it's Russell Martin's first league game as Rangers manager and he's only played 3 games. Well, Motherwell have got a new manager as well. They had more new signings in the starting 11, so they're playing a new style of football as well, and you've got to remember that. And Jens Berfalasco has done a great job. Obviously, they're getting them prepared for the Premiership season. They start so well, and really unlucky not to take all 3 points from what I've seen and heard. And it's really worrying for Rangers because you can understand teething problems after 3 matches, but you can't understand players not want to run for the badge, and that's how Russell Martin made it out. And the goal Rangers conceded was just terrible, amateur level defending. So yeah, it's really worrying, but obviously they've got a massive game tomorrow night, and you imagine they'll be up for that in front of a full Ibrox, because they'll need to be, because it's a massive game, and they'll need to play their best game of the season. Otherwise, there's every chance they'll lose tomorrow night.
I suppose if you were looking for an outstanding score, I would maybe go for the 2 new boys on the Premiership, Falkirk, 2 each against Young United, and also Livingston as well, the game of the weekend.
Yeah, I actually caught the first half of both of those games, and from the 2 promoted teams, I noticed similar patterns. Both of them are trying to play their football, play their stuff. Falkirk, they like to play an expansive brand of football under John McGlynn. It's obviously brought them loads of success with the back-to-back promotions. They were unlucky to go behind. It was poor defending from them. Dundee United take the lead through Max Waters, but they pegged Dundee United back twice. So yeah, a really good point to start from Falkirk, and they only made, I think they've only made 4 signings or something like that. Livingston have made 13, so it just shows the different ways that they're trying to approach the season. John McGlynn has got a lot of success from sticking with he's sort of trusted players even from League One. So he's doing the same. David Martindale thinks he needs lots of new bodies in, and you'd have to say on the first day it's worked for both of them. Both not terrible results, not great results, but decent starts for both of them. And to be fair, from where Livingston were in the game, 2-0 behind, I know Kelly got a red card, which changes the game, but it's not always easy to play against 10 men. So to get those 2 goals and nick a point at Rugby Park is a great start for Livingston. And yeah, I think every team in the league's looking really competitive. They're looking like they have their own identity, and it makes for really entertaining watch. The only team that I would cast astray at the moment is probably Dundee, because I don't know, they were just terrible against Hibs yesterday. I didn't watch it, but I think they had 2 shots, 1 on target. So Hibs dominated, and really worrying times for Stephen Presley and the Dens Park faithful.
Yeah, maybe we don't like to see any manager losing their job, but do you think his job might be on a sugary peg then?
Yeah, I think you'd have to say that, because they're just, I mean, to knock out the Premier Sports Cup group, I know other Premiership clubs have done it, but it's a really bad start to the season. You're playing against teams in lower divisions. You should be getting out of the group, and they just didn't. And yeah, it's really poor. And obviously, no shame in losing to a really good Hibs team at the moment, but it's the fact they never really created anything. And I know they scored, but yeah, really worrying. And yeah, I just can't see a circumstance where they sort of turn it round this early. I think their squad is just really not the level of the Premiership, and I think they need. I think Stephen Presley said himself they need 6 new signings in, and I would agree with that. I think they need at least 6 new signings in, just to bring in that quality, to let them compete in the Premiership. But I mean, if you're not bringing those signings in for another month, then you're running that a bit late, because in a month's time they could already be a bit behind at the bottom of the league, and then Presley's getting sacked, and then you're having to get a new manager in, and it's really not looking good for Dundee at the moment. But yeah, that's the way I see it.
Just a quick word, Ethan, because obviously we're going to be on tomorrow night with Rangers in the Champions League qualifier. But Paul Donaldson says, any thoughts on the European draw?
Yeah, I'll just touch on Rangers first, as obviously they're playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think Victoria Polsen, not obviously the team they drew, but the team they're playing tomorrow night. I think that'll be a step up from Panathinaikos. They'll need to be better than they were in those 2 legs. And then I think, again, FC Salzburg or Club Brugge will be another step up, because both of those teams, FC Salzburg have qualified for the Champions League in the last 6 seasons. Club Brugge have qualified in 6 of the last 7 seasons, making the round of 16 in the last 2 seasons. So it's not going to be easy for Rangers. It's a tall order, and the odds are stacked against them. We knew this from the start, but you never know. Rangers have done some amazing things in European competition recently, whereas where the domestic kind of form is lacked. So you never know. But I think Club Brugge, I'd imagine they'll beat Salzburg, and I imagine they'd be a step too far. For Celtic and the other Champions League path, obviously in the Champions path, they play against Kairat Almaty, the champions of Kazakhstan, or Slovan Bratislava, the champions of Slovakia, and they'd have to be massive favourites. I think it would be, you would have to call it the ultimate embarrassment if Celtic aren't in the Champions League come whenever the draw is. Yeah, and I think Celtic will need to sign players, but yeah, for Dundee United, I'll just touch on all the teams quickly. Dundee United, I think it'll be really difficult to get past Rapid Vienna. Yeah, I just don't even see them getting past Rapid Vienna, and I hope they prove me wrong, but I just think it's a step too far for them to even think about the next round. And then for Hibs, I believe they're against I think it's AEK Larnaca Legia Warsaw, I want to say. But they've obviously got Partizan Belgrade standing away, which will be a really difficult tie. I think Hibs can give them a game, definitely. because they gave Midtjylland a game, and you have to look at that as a similar level of opponent. Let me just double check who Hibs have got, so I'm not mistaken it. AK, Larnaca, Cyprus, Legia Warsaw, Poland. I think they're two winnable ties for Hibs, but they'll both be difficult. They'll both probably be underdogs going into the games, but you never know. I really like the way that David Gray is setting Hibs up at the moment, and I really like the way they're playing. Aberdeen playing FCSB, or Steaua Bucharest. Obviously, once European champions. They could get thrashed at Ibrox last season in the Europa League phase, but they've done pretty well in the competition as a whole. I think that'll be difficult for Aberdeen, but then again, you never know. But off tonight's proceedings, I have a lot less confidence in Aberdeen to get through that one. I think they'll be in the Conference League groups come the draw in August.
There you go. So that is your football for the weekend. It's been a busy weekend, and we'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. And Europe for Rangers in the Champions League. An early show for us tomorrow night. No 7 o'clock show. We'll be here at 6 o'clock. And then after the game at 10 o'clock as well. So yeah, we're off to our beds now because it's been a busy weekend of the old 35 games to go and all that. So we'll be with you throughout the season. Don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel. It is the Scottish Football Zone on YouTube, and follow us on X as well. So Ethan, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks to Robbie early on as well, and hope to see you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions